record again for the 18th time, my comment still stands. Go to communication, COMMUNICATIONOS.
Huh? More nonsense with our super mayor, Tiffany Henyard. She is in the hot seat, as usual, with more nonsense. Obviously, federal investigators diving into her shady financial dealings and also doing more paid for play type stuff. We're going to talk about that and more in this video. Let's get into it. The village is broke. This is from the cookcountyrecord.com, talking about the idea that Dalton may lose their insurance coverage soon. The village is broke. This is the attorney Michael McGrath of the firm of Alderson. If you've been on this channel and saw some of the depositions that I was reading that came from Keith Freeman and Tiffany Henyard, you know who he is. He was the one that interviewed, I think, both Tiffany and Keith Freeman. The problem is there's so many issues. There's so much dysfunction in this government. They're going to run out of insurance. They're going to run out of money. And this is important right here. The village has been hit with legal actions from a growing number of current and former village employees who have accused Henyard of misconduct, including illegal retaliatory discipline and terminations. Many of these lawsuits, however, have also centered on Henyard's alleged refusal to allow village employees to abide by the requirements of Illinois' Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, leading to repeated refusal by village employees to turn over village government documents and other information that they were required to release under FOIA. Let's get into the two main stories I want to talk to you guys about. Like I said earlier, our super mayor is dealing with federal investigators. They're diving into every aspect of her life, especially here being the mayor of Dalton and the township supervisor. They're diving into alleged shady financial dealings. Imagine spending over $200,000 on a no-bid contract with a company neck deep in bribery scandals. Well, that's exactly what's happening. But wait, there's more. Henyard, along with Keith Freeman, is also accused of plotting a takeover of the school trustee board in Dorton Township. So let's just get into the latest nonsense involving our super mayor. Our super mayor, Tiffany Henyard, is in hot water over payments to a construction company, Oak Construction Company, OAKK Construction Company, that has been linked to several corruption scandals. The village, following Henyard's recommendation, paid the company more than $200,000 for work on seniors' homeowners' roofs and windows without any former bidding or contracts. Mind you, that's not how it's supposed to work. You would want as many bids as possible so the government, village, whatever, get to pick the best value so people are not just taking contracts without any kind of follow through, any kind of vetting. It's not supposed to work that way. Federal investigators are now digging into these transactions, and they're probably finding some nonsense, but let's continue. Alex Nitchkoff, the company's president, is waiting for his sentence after pleading guilty to bribing a Cook County Assessor Office employee for property tax breaks. His family's history of corruption goes way back, involving unpaid tax schemes and bribery scandals, including one former Chicago alderman. Let's talk about that real quick. So his father, his name was Boris Nitchkoff. He built a fortune by buying unpaid Cook County property taxes, collecting interest, or taking over properties if owners didn't repay. However, he let taxes on 7 of his own properties lapse, accumulating $861,000 in overdue bills. He and his grandson Connor used their companies to buy these tax debts at Cook County scavenger sales for a fraction of the amount owed, violating state law. And despite this, they still owe $1.68 million. Despite their attempts to avoid back taxes, the Nitchkoffs still maintain that they have done nothing wrong. But let's talk about the alderwoman. This scheme involved connections to Carrie Austin and her chief of staff, Chester Wilson, though no charges have been filed. Alderwoman Carrie Austin and her chief of staff, Chester Wilson, are mixed up in the Nitchkoffs through a federal investigation into their business dealings. The authorities are looking into potential shady activities between the Nitchkoffs and Austin's office. Again, although no one has been officially accused of a crime yet, I'm sure you guys are wondering what's the connection. One link involves a fire-damaged building that Wilson owned. He managed to get it transferred to his business partner without paying any back taxes through Cook County's Land Bank Authority. This agency is supposed to get properties back on the tax rolls, but in this case, it helped Wilson and potentially benefited the Nitchkoffs. The details of this federal investigation aren't all out and open yet. Still, it seems like the authorities are digging into some financial and possibly illegal activities involving both the Nitchkoffs and the people that are in Carrie Austin's office. But let's get back to Alex Nikoff. This investigation raises big questions about transparency and the proper use of public funds in Dalton. Paying over $200,000 without any competitive bidding is a red flag. We've talked about this, about the tree trimming stuff, and it just suggests misuse of public funds or favoritism or corruption. Again, allegedly. And that's why the federal probe is here, aiming to uncover whether these dealings were above the board or to represent a deeper issue of corruption and mismanagement. And just like a lot of the connections involving some of these companies, involving even the companies that Keith Freeman hasn't been involved in, there's so much dealings going back and forth, whether they're helping each other on one end or the other, that if you just connect the dots, you realize that there's something going on here that's benefiting both parties. And one of the parties that are not being benefited is probably the residents of the community. Even if this is on board, why would a mayor want to deal with a company that has tons of issues with breaking the law and have a long history of, again, breaking the law? It just shows that they're not even good at vetting good companies. But let's talk about another lawsuit. How many lawsuits Tiffany Henyard has been involved in? I don't even know the number. If you know the number, let me know. It must be a lot. But the latest one was talked about a couple of days ago. It's a pretty intense situation here. A federal lawsuit was filed accusing the super mayor, along with Keith Freeman, to try to take over the Thornton Township Trustees of School Board. This lawsuit was filed by a township employee who has been around for 20 years and recently ran for the Township Trustee of Schools position. So let's talk about this scheme. Henyard and Freeman apparently had a plan to seize control of the school's trustees. They wanted to replace the existing attorney with the Delgado Law Group and get rid of the current treasurer to install their own hand-picked replacement. To make this happen, they needed the support of the new trustees, including the plaintiff and Andrew Holmes, a Dalton Village trustee, who also got elected as a trustee of schools. Freeman took the initiative and talked to the plaintiff about their takeover plan, hoping to get their support. To sweeten the deal, they offered the plaintiff a $10,000 raise and took him out to several breakfasts and events. Despite these efforts, the plaintiff stood on business, stood his ground, and refused to go along with their scheme. But Freeman didn't stop there. He posted an unauthorized special meeting agenda at the school trustee office, including items to hire a new attorney and treasurer. But since there wasn't a quorum, the meeting didn't go anywhere and their attempts failed. And things went off the rails when the plaintiff went on a scheduled vacation from his job. After the failed meeting, the plaintiff was suddenly fired, allegedly for quote-unquote insubordination and misconduct, charges he claims are completely made up. He believes they only made up these allegations and put false reports in his personal file to justify the firing. But this lawsuit isn't just about wrongful termination. It's a 6-count complaint covering the First Amendment retaliation, 14th Amendment retaliation, retaliatory discharge, conspiracy, intentional infliction or emotional distress, and the violation of an Illinois Personnel Records Review Act. That's a lot. Basically, the plaintiff is arguing that Henyard and Freeman conspired to force him out because he wouldn't support their takeover plans. That's merely it. So many allegations, so many stories about this kind of corrupt power. It's just more on top of the piles and piles of it. We'll see what's going to happen. And I'm sure this week is going to have a bunch of other crazy stories involving the super mayor. But what do you guys think about this situation? Do you guys believe it? Obviously, it's just another lawsuit. How Henyard is going to be able to afford all these lawsuits? Now, I know she's running the show and a lot of this is being paid by the taxpayers. I think that's what everyone's waiting on. When are the feds going to be like, you know what, we got enough? But they're still working and they look like they're trying to get everything. But what do you guys think about this story? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. And I'll see you guys in the next video.